process of doing a video that will be the true beginning of chalk art. Techniques, starting with a piece of chalk. We're going to show you how to use it. We're going to be using the form of teaching edges. We'll break off into doing trees and then rocks and try to show you how to use chalk art in the way that can be great for ministry-wise. So we're going to start. This is a piece of lectures chalk. It's a water-based pastel. It's 1 inch by 1 inch by 3 inches long. See, but I'm going to use a black background. I'm going to start using with a white piece of chalk. It's this. If I can teach you to use these edges, you should be able to do just about anything in chalk art. But the secret is getting these edges down. I call this a flat. This is called the top. This is called the heel. This is the proper way of holding the chalk, just like you see. As I put pressure up here, I'm going to put more pressure on this top edge and less pressure on the bottom. I've got a heavy edge here going to nothing. That means and it goes to nothing at this end. Same way if I'm coming across chalk, and I'm going to go across like this. We don't have to do that in the middle. That's a good touch on your chalk. If I'm doing large boxes or big boxes, to cut that box, for instance, mountain, I don't have to go back and fill it using my this. If you can get, you'll see why you practice this. Chalk propeller. Okay? That's not. Don't get frustrated on it. You're going to have some trouble. I wouldn't even a line. I'm not talking about heel. If you can watch my hand, I'm drawing this. It's going like this. So that I'm pushing an edge all the time. I'm not staying on the point of that edge, because if you do, it'll turn into a flat. So you've got to roll that as you're drawing so that you can keep an edge out there all the time. I want you to practice this for at least 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. It wouldn't hurt to go back and do it again after you finish that first 30 minutes. So we're going to take a break. Now you practice. Over that again. Now, let me say this about this. You'll need to get you a place. You can set you up an easel. You need to get a bedspread or an old sheet underneath you so that you're not going to track it around. You need to find some white sandpaper and sand this paper just a very little bit. And then get you an eraser, an old school eraser if you can find one, and put your chalk on there, a darker color right now, and then take your eraser and tone the paper before you start drawing. It will really help you. When you tone it, then take your hand and smooth off the excess, and then you'll be ready to draw. Now, always remember, your hand will set the chalk. Your eraser moves the chalk. Now, we're going to be shooting some points in these 4 strokes that are so necessary. You've got to get this motion down. I am barely turning that chalk as I'm drawing. If I'm going across this way, I'm turning the chalk this way. If I'm turning my hand over, which is so necessary, you need to come down. And when you do, I'm turning the chalk this way. And then the heel of the chalk comes there, I'm turning it back this way. When you're doing the circle, be sure you turn the circle, but I'm turning the chalk as I'm doing the circle. I'm doing the same thing this way, except I'm turning the chalk this way. Then when I come back again the bottom, I'm using the heel of the chalk, but there again, I'm turning the chalk. You've got to get those motions down. It's that critical. Here's what. I showed you a mountain a while ago. But let's say we wanted to draw a tree. Now I'm using the same piece of chalk, just like you're using. I'm using this edge right here. I've got to have this edge so I can make this nice edges on this tree. I'm turning that chalk and turning out those edges. I'm turning it every time. When I do, I'm turning the chalk this way, just like I was drawing the boxes or the circles to make this tree. It's not hard, but it's a lot of work. You can make all the kinds of trees you want, but you've got to have these edges. I'm dragging this chalk on the paper just like I'm dragging it across a box or a circle. That's why we can do it so fast in our drawing. That's why in mountains, we can do fast. Trees, we can do so fast. But we have to use these edges to do this. Edges are so critical in what we do. We can draw all the trees we want to draw, but we've got to be sure we've got these edges working for us. Fun, fun, fun. Now I want you to go back and practice some more. Do your boxes, practice those rows on that chalk, practice your circles and get that going for you the way it should, and then try a few trees like this. When we come back to the next session, we're going to do a whole host of trees. And so I want you to practice this for at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and then come back and we'll do another session. Now that you're back and you've practiced for a while, I want to show you the difference by using edges. And you use edges and you're using the chalk properly. This is the way it ought to be looking. You're starting to see it's got many edges because we've turned it and we've rolled it. This is what it looks like when you don't turn it and roll it. You don't have an edge. And you can plainly see it's not sharp at all. You get a whole host of those together in the back of the room, they're not going to know what that is. For this, no matter how many I've got, I guarantee you, everybody will know that you've got gobs of trees up here because we've got these pretty edges. And you can see those in the back of the room. That's why it's so important to get these edges down. You may hear me harp on it and harp on it and harp on it, but it's the most critical thing we do in chalk art. Get these edges and we can draw anything. And we're going to show you a lot of trees in just a little while. And you can practice those trees. So as I get it set up, you may want to practice a little more right here. And then we'll have the trees ready for you to practice in a moment. Thank you. We're glad you're back. These are a number of trees that we have laid out on this sheet. We're going to take a shot of this and leave it on your camera for a while. And I want you to practice these. It may take you a little while, an hour or 30 minutes or whatever, but you practice them, and then when we come back one more time, I'm going to draw these trees for you, and you can draw them with me, okay? We're glad you're back. We hope that you've been practicing for a while. We're going to go through some of these trees with you. I'm going to do my best to show you some movements of this hand that hopefully will help you with your trees. And the motion I'm telling you about is here, but it's also here. You've got to be able to turn this hand like this but you've also got to be able to turn this chalk like this, okay? Sometimes it's helpful if you can see me doing that. You see how I've got a nice edge, but it's coming to a point. The same way if I'm going this way. My hand is turning like I'm doing the circle, but I'm also turning the chalk this way. So this is a good exercise to do. Just lay that edge, not the flat, but the edge on the paper, and then turn it, but make it come to a nice little point out there. This is good. You can also do it this way, and this way, this way, this way. But you've got to make it have that motion of bringing it to this point, okay? Now, when we're drawing a simple pine tree, it's really important. You can get a book that'll show you all kinds of pine trees and fir trees, but normally a pine tree's limbs will be like this. We don't have time to draw limbs. So we have got to use our edges. We're going to think where those limbs are, but we're going to draw foliage. So as I'm doing my edges, and I'm turning those edges, I'm thinking about where the limbs are. I'm pushing out. You can see me pushing out like that. I'm dragging the chalk in the middle, and this is what makes this tree start forming its shape. As I come down towards the bottom, the foliage gets heavier, so we start turning out on the bottom of this tree. Now the middle is off in like, so it's a tree. I mean, and it doesn't matter if it's a big one or a little one. You still got to have these motions, and you got to get these edges like this. You can just draw a whole bunch of trees, but it's got to come from these edges. That is so vital to making your drawing what it ought to be. Now, let me show you a tree that we call I call it a sawtooth tree. It's a very easy tree, but you still have to use this edge. You go up and down, but as you come up, you're lifting it a little bit off the paper so that it looks like this, but from a distance, it's going to look like a whole forest of just, you can see how it looks. It's so very, very fast. Let me show you some more. This is some trees that I call squiggly trees. Now I'm not using the point, I'm using an edge, but I'm also going to use just a little of this edge right here. Now watch. I'm going to draw up here, but I'm going to squiggle these trees. I'm just making it like this. You say, well, that looks awful. Yeah, but from a distance, everybody in your family and your neighbors and your church, our friends, are going to say, it looks like trees. And this is what we're after. We're not trying to be the greatest artist, but if we can get across a message that will proclaim the good news of Jesus, then we've accomplished what we set out to do. So these are just little squiggly trees. Now, you don't want the same distance between them. You want it to look like it does in a forest. So you just draw many, many, many of them. And then when you step back and look at that, you're going to see it looks like a bunch of trees on a hillside. Easy, 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 but you've got to get these edges working for you. We call this an explosion tree, or I do. I have no idea what kind of tree it is. It doesn't really matter as long as somebody walks up to you and says, what kind of tree is that? You say, well, I didn't say it was a tree. So you automatically have them hung because it is a tree. But you can put a bunch of these together. Just use those edges, turn that chalk, and I promise you, it looks like a whole bunch of trees, and it looks good. You're drawing a whole bunch of pine trees. Draw them suckers. I mean, use those edges. Push them out there. I don't expect you to be this fast at first, but we try to finish a complete drawing after we have the clouds finished and our invisible pictures finished, we try to finish all the foreground in 15 to 20 minutes. So you've got to be able to do these trees in a hurry to finish your picture. So it comes about by edges. Got to have these edges. It's that critical. Now let's say we want to draw, you can draw I guess you might call it an elm tree or a maple tree. Now if you'll notice, I'm using little bitty circles here. Just little circles. I'm using edges, but I'm using these little circles. I'm filling this in, and making this look like a tree. Now, if I don't like the shape, I go back and change it. But look at here. We got a tree. I mean, and you can just do hundreds of these in a hurry if you'll make these edges work for you. It's not hard. Now, I've shown you a few trees. You can get art books and get all kinds of trees you want to get, but you still need to practice these edges. In a little while, I want you to practice some more trees. Practice the pines, practice some firs, practice these little sawtooth trees, because we're going to be using these on a drawing in just a little while. So we're going to give you a chance to practice some. Then when we come back, we're going to do a complete drawing for you. We're going to do clouds, we're going to do trees, we're even going to do an invisible picture for you. So get to practicing, and we'll see you in a little while. You're back. We hope you got those time. We'll be doing a pastel drawing. We'll be using visible fluorescence, and I'm also going to use invisible fluorescence. You can get all these materials off of our website. You can get the paper, all the chalk, and you can click it on. It'll be shown a number of times through this video, so you'll be able to pick it up and just click on, and you can get all the chalk and materials. I'm using a piece of sandpaper wedge here, but it's very fine. It's the finest that you can get. And this is gray bogus paper like we use to practice with, but I'm going to lightly sand it, simply because some of the paper is really, really rough. And we don't want to sand it a lot, but I want to sand it enough. I'm just barely rubbing it on there, but I want to be sure that I can get it as smooth as I can, and so that my chalk will work better. Now I'm going to wipe off the excess with a rag. Just get with it. We've got lots to do, and you can do this. Now let's take some white pastel, regular chalk. I'm going to draw a line right across here, and we're going to be using water, so we want this line to lay flat. Okay? Be sure that you mark yourself a horizon line. I normally, for my own purpose, so I can keep track of my horizon line, will draw me a light line like that above and below that line. That's for me. That's so I know where it's at. Now, we're going to be drawing a cloud. We're going to attempt to put an invisible picture in here. We're going to put some visible fluorescence in here and try to make this pretty dressy. So I want you to go along with me. Now, I'm going to push these edges, so I want you to work along with me. Right now, I'm going to fill in this white area. Now, in doing invisible fluorescence, you have to have a heavy white area to draw on top of. We have 17 colors of chalk that are invisible, but they're all white. So it's not that they're invisible, we can make them invisible. So this white, we're going to have to lay on heavy, and then we're going to have to rub it into the paper to fill up all these pores of the paper, and then we can draw on top of that with this invisible, and people can't see it. So it's something that will really get everyone's attention, but you're going to have to do it a proper way. That's why this video is so important. So, watch me now. I'm filling this in. I'm not worried about those edges up there right now. I'm just filling in some white. I'm making me a cloud area that I can work with, okay? See, I'm just kind of laying it on good and thick. Now, I'm going to take my hand. I'm going to rub those areas. I'm not going into the outside edges, because I'm going to take some other chalk and color that with color. But I want to push this chalk into those areas of this paper where it will fill in all those gray areas. Okay? Now, don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt your hand. Soap and water will take it off. So just lay it on there. Now, that's just a white background. I'm going to take light blue. Now, light blue is the lightest blue we have. I'm going to run light blue right across that bottom line. Now, I'm using an edge here. See that nice crisp edge? And now then I'm going to blend this down into this white area about halfway, a little more than halfway. And then we're going to, all the way out, do it like this. I'm going to take this light blue. I'm going to use a flat. And I'm going to put some of this, not a heavy touch, up into this area. I'm just laying it on there because I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to move it to where I want to move it, and then I will set it with my hand a little later. So right now I'm just laying some of this on there like this. Now while I'm doing this, let me say this about perspective. There's only two ways to show depth or perspective in a picture. Doesn't matter what kind of art you're doing, these are the only two ways to get depth into your picture. One is this: from this line, everything to the top of that has to get bigger or darker or both. From this line towards the bottom, everything has to get bigger or darker or both. That's the only two ways we have of showing depth. So if you'll keep that in mind all the way through your picture, trees, rocks, mountains, telephone poles, whatever, if you'll keep that in mind, you'll have a picture that will automatically have depth to it, or perspective. Now this is blue. That was light blue. This is blue. I'm using this blue to give me a little darker area up here. Remember I said there's two ways to show depth, light to dark. So we need a little darker area up here to make this show some depth to it, okay? Now, I'm using the flat, no edge at this point. I'm just laying it on, and we'll take our eraser and we'll change it a little bit. Now, that's the only blue I'm going to use on that one. I'm going to go to dark blue. And dark blue, I'm going to put heavy across the bottom. I'm pressing with the heel of my chalk. I'm adding pressure down here so that I can make it darker. And yet the top, I'm just going to smooth out or lightly put into that light blue. Now, you can already see at the picture, we have depth in it because we're going light to dark, and we're going light to dark, and we're getting bigger with the clouds as we're going towards the top. Now, I normally have 3 erasers at all times. I have one eraser for light colors. I have one eraser for dark colors. Then I have an eraser that stays clean all the time. So that way I can, I'll have my erasers ready. Now I want you to watch this. This is just an eraser blending that chalk. You see how smooth that became? It makes all the difference in the world. I haven't put my hand on it because when I put my hand on it, it's going to set that chalk. So right now I'm just moving this around, making the cloud the way I want to make it, but I'm using an eraser to do so. Now, be sure you just lightly rub this. You don't need to rub it much. Anywhere you touch this eraser, it's going to move some of that chalk. Sometimes it'll even move too much if you're not careful. So you don't have to rub much, just enough to take it off and move it around. You see how it starts blending in here? Now I've still got chalk I haven't touched with it, which is fine. When I put my hand on that, it'll probably be a little darker and it'll give me some contrast into this cloud picture. So just keep working with your eraser. This is all done ahead of time before you start your presentation to anyone. We do this ahead of time so that we can get the invisible picture drawn, take all day if we need to, and then the presentation we can do in front of people. It won't take us but 15 or 20 minutes to finish. So this is why these edges and this technique of doing this chap art, already see our clouds are beginning to form. We've got some dark areas in it, we've got some light areas in them, and we're just kind of playing along here and changing this cloud as we like to, if we think it best to do. So keep working with it. You can work, and then you can come back and redo it and chalk along with me. But you've got to see how much of this eraser I'm using. I'm not using much of it. I'm just barely moving part of it around and blending in what I need to blend. We're very, very pleased that you've chosen to check out this video and work with me. I don't think there's a person I cannot teach to draw chalk art, but they have to learn to do it the right way. We're doing our best to do that. I hope you'll help us by inviting other people to get involved, show them your video, join in, and hopefully we'll even have more people sharing the good news of the Lord as we go through this life. Now, I'm going to take this, I'm going to come down into this darker area. I'm going all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to blend it back up into that light blue, smooth it out, bring it up about that far. Okay? Now, take off the excess. If there's some blue up there, you want to add a little darker blue, do so with what you have on your eraser. It's a good time to do it. Okay? Just do it like that. And that way it'll darken up those areas just a tiny bit. Now, I'm going to lay that aside. I'm going to take my hand. Now, I did wipe it off on the rag. Take your hand, and now just blend in that excess around this cloud. Some of my students, this is all they'll do to their cloud. Just this right here. They don't want to fluff it up or take time to play with it anymore. This is all that they'll do. But I sometimes like to take time and I will blend a little bit of chalk into these areas and hopefully fluff this cloud up a little bit and make it a little, let's see if you like it or not. Let's try it. Let's put some areas up here. Now I am using edges on this, okay? I'm going to fluff some of these areas. I'm using little circles. You can pay attention to that. And I will take up here and I will cut some areas in that with this chalk, make it a little different look in that cloud. I will use the heel of this piece and I will cut in some areas like that. Sometimes I take a bigger piece and where I want to just put some white up here, tone that down, and I will do that. Other times I will take these nice edges like we worked on with those little circles and boxes, and I will start those in here. We want to just kind of fluff this up, okay? I think you'll really, really enjoy working with chalk. Now, be sure that you take a look at clouds, how they lay in the sky. Sometimes we forget just what a fantastic
Lord we have and how He is the greatest artist of all. And nobody can make colors and do things like He can do. But just playing with some of this, I think you'll really enjoy. And I think it'll change your whole way of looking at things better than you ever have before. So take a look at how things lay in the sky, how the sun shines on rocks, and I think it's going to change your whole way of looking at things as you go through life. So pay attention and take notes. Get you some pictures out of books and make you some note cards, and just kind of keep track of things and make you a card file and a picture file, and then you can go back and start putting some of that onto paper. I hope you can start seeing things are beginning to develop and become kind of fluffy and kind of billowy in spots, and we hope that you'll just stay at this. Don't give up. You're welcome to email me and write me and tell me how you enjoy the video or how it's helped you, and I want to hear from you. So be sure to do that. But I want to even take a picture and send it to me and tell me how you're doing. Let me see what you've done. We will be having other videos coming out soon on some of our advanced work, and after you do this a few times, and you may want to come to some of our classes and get involved in that and learn about it, and let us help you with a hands-on program, and I think it'll even help you even more. So that's our goal, is to make the best artist we can out of you, so that you can equip yourself better to share the good news of the Lord Jesus Christ. So we're getting close now. We're going to add a little bit of color and take off from there. Okay? Now, sometimes you can do this. You can take brown. This is light brown. And you can put a little bit of light brown up in here. And I'm going to run some colors on this later on and show you why we can add some of these lighter colors or brown colors or throw peach up in here. And when we show different color lights on this, it actually changes and makes these clouds look like they're moving just by using colored lights. We'll be showing you that a little bit later. So you just keep watching, keep working with this, and you notice I'm blending this in with my hand so that we don't have any harsh marks or anything, but it will change it quickly. Now, this is all pastel. We haven't done anything fluorescent up until now. This is called visible fluorescence. Now you see I've been using them a while. But this comes in a box of 6 colors, and I'm going to be using what's called flare red. All those colors glow under a black light. I'm using this pinkish color. And we're going to lay this pinkish color right along this line. Now, I'm not putting this on heavy, it just shines bright under an incandescent bulb. And I'm going all the way across with that. And then we're going to bring it up in here like this. We're going to run some up into our cloud area. Anywhere I touch this up here, it's going to come up red under the fluorescent light. So it should look pretty good. I'm going to take this, I'm going to leave that line showing. That will be my shoreline or my four-way line over there. That's just basically for me, so I can see where it's at. And I'm going to fill this in as a reflection. We're going to have a watered area down here. So we're going to fill this in like this with this pretty. Now, I'm going to take what's called fluorescent gold. This is visible fluorescent gold. And I'm going to put a little of that right in here. All of a sudden, we now have a pretty sunset. Just a little bit in here so that we can have a reflection of this down into this water. Now, at this moment, I'm going to take my hand. I wipe that off with the rag again. And I'm going to take my hand and rub it across that area right there. I'm blending that in to the paper. Smoothing it out. Now, I hope you think that that's a pretty picture right now. But I will do my best to make it even better as we go along. Okay? Now, you can do this. You can take some violet, and you could run you some little clouds back in here, way in the distance, back in here. And I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to smudge that just a little bit like that. You can even have one back in here, another one back in here. I like to drop some of this back in here when I do that, just to show that we have a reflection in there. Just take your hand, wipe it off, and just go like that. Okay? I'm going to take this visible gold fluorescent now, and on the edge, I'm going to come in here and cut just along the bottom of that. Can you see me using the edge? I'm using the same motion we've been talking about. But what I'm doing is putting, like the sun is hitting the bottom of these little clouds. Not much. I'm just running that edge back in there so that we're going to have this cloud reflecting the bottom, on the bottom of this sun. Okay? Now, we're about ready to do our layout. I'm going to take dark blue, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this dark blue, and I'm going to draw a light line right on that area that I left for me to see. Okay? Not going all the way to the ends, but I am going most of the way. Now I'm going to take, do you remember those trees we call sawtooth trees? I'm going to do those. I'm going to start pulling some of those in here with this chalk. And notice I'm just going up and down like we did before, turning that chalk, making those nice little edges up there on top. As I get closer to the middle, you're going to notice I start getting smaller so that it looks like our trees are bigger and it's farther away here in the middle. All we have to do is just put some in here, then we'll build it in here a little bit. Okay? Now, let's build on down this way. I'm going to come in here and put some little wigglies, and we'll put us some little tiny trees on top of those. And I'm going to start my up and down trees again, and I'm going to build them down to that area. This is not a hard media, but it is hard. Because if you don't get these edges down, you're just going to have a horrible time making it work for you. Now if you go below the line like I did, don't worry about it. We're going to do this. We're going to come back across the line just barely under that one. Now I'm letting my finger rest on this paper so I can guide that line across there. Just barely letting my finger drag. I'm going to go acrossways this way with my reflection, and then I'll drag it down like that. So in doing your reflection, don't go like this, go crossways. If he goes up, you go down. And make the bottom below the line about as far as it is above that line, so that you have a look like a reflection. Now, it's going to look like it when we drag it in just a moment. Keep on going. Finish up your trees by going crossways. Now, at this moment, this is dark blue. I'm going to come back with regular green, just green. Not yellow green, not dark green, just green. And I'm going to take this green and I'm going to rub it on the flat, and I'm going to put me some green on the top part of these trees so that it'll change the tone of that dark blue a little bit. Won't be so harsh. All the way across, just a little bit, not a whole lot. I'm just using the green, and I'm using it on the flat to fill in that area. Now, I didn't go up into my top of those trees. Now, watch closely. I'm going to clean off my hand. I'm going to take my thumb, and I'm not going to go up into my pretty little edge part, but right there, I'm going to drag it. Every time you drag it, you wipe it on your hand. If you don't, you're going to smudge if you're not careful. Every time, drag it. Just get in the habit of it. Keep dragging it. You see how pretty a reflection we get? Just drag it on across, just like that. Now, this is called light peach. It's a pink color. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put me a little line right where I had left that line for me to be able to see where I was at. I'm going to take the edge and I'm going to put me some little trunks in here. You see those? Just I'm using the edge now. If you use a point, it's not going to work right. You got to keep that edge. You got to turn it. Okay? Now, I'm going to take dark blue. Same blue we used right there. I'm going to come in here and right below this line, I'm going to draw a line like this. Up here, I'm going to put me some nice edges. Something like this. These are going to become a little hillside, but we're going to have trees on it, and we're going to have some rocks. We're also going to have some of these sawtooth trees, the ones we just finished with a while ago. We're going to make them a little higher this time, so that it looks like this is closer than those. Now you notice I've dropped down below this line. That also will make it look like it's closer. Now we're going to put some of these in here. Little sawtooth trees. Like that. Okay? I'm going to take this same piece of chalk. Now watch. I'm going to put me a line right here. This is going to be a pine tree. But you're going to have to use those nice little edges. Remember those edges we worked on? You're going to have to turn that chalk, turn it out like we practiced. You're going to have to make this work for you like this. See those edges all picking up right there? In the back of the room, they'd be able to see those. So that's why it's so critical that you get those down. Now I'm going to put me another one, another tree right here. When you're laying out your picture, it's always best to kind of lay out your trees in odd numbers if you can. something about odd numbers makes people look at your drawing. So keep that in mind. Work on having odd amounts of trees or rocks or something like that into your picture, okay? Now here's where we go underneath this. I got to leave me a little line so I can see where I'm at. Now here I'm going crossways. Wherever I went up, I want to come down. Now I'm going back with the green. Turn back with the green, and I'm going to go down to that little line. I'm blending this, but I'm using a flat. I'm just running a little up in here. Not running it up into that very much, just a little bit. Now, I'll take my hand again. I'm going to blend that up in there with my finger to take out any kind of a hole that might be there. Because if there's some fluorescent back there, I don't want it shining through my trees that much. Now, I'm going to take my thumb again and I'm going to drag all the way down, making my reflection down in here. Now, I'm going to take light brown. One of the troubles you'll have is figuring out the colors of this chalk. So I hope that you'll, when you get your chalk, label it or go right down by the order form, and you can be able to see what colors are what, and hopefully keep up with them that way and get your colors all worked out. Now I'm going to put some rocks in here. Okay? I'm going to put some little rocks that maybe this is a hillside that's got a bunch of rocks. We'll put one right out here on the end. Put some in here like that. You can put some shading down in here like this, like it's reflecting in there. I'm going to take this same color. I'm going to drop me a trunk or two in here of these pine trees. Okay? Now I'm going to take what's called dull peach. It's a tan color. It's the only tan we have. And I'm going to highlight some of these rocks. Or highlight and highlight. Just to make these rocks pop out a little bit. Like that. Okay? Now I'm going to take yellow green. Now here I'm going to have to really work on my edges now, because I want to put some of these little greeny thingies up in here, but I got to have nice edges to make that look right. So be sure that you work on these edges. It really makes a difference in your picture if you'll get them down. Okay? Now, I'm taking that same light peach, same one we used there, and where my line of my bank is, I'm going to put that. But I'm also going to drop another one in here. And maybe another one like this. And maybe one here like this. Now we've got a little water flowing in that area. Now let's come over here. Let's use the same dark blue. Now we're basically doing the trees that we worked with you on earlier with our edges. And I'm going to show you some size now with this tree. We're going to go a little bigger on our pine tree. We're going to drop some rocks in here, probably put us a tree or two in here, and see if we can make this really come to life. So let's start with our edges. Work with these trees. I had one fella tell me, he said, well, you're just scribbling. I said, yeah, I'm scribbling with a purpose, because my purpose is to make these edges pop out so much that anybody, no matter where they are in the church or or auditorium will be able to see everything I have on my paper. That's my purpose, is to get their attention. And when we turn on the black light, we're gonna knock them to pieces. So keep that in mind. It's that very important that you work hard on these edges. Now, I'm going to drop this in here. I'm going to put us a nice edge on this, like this. Filling this in. I'm going to leave this light over here in this corner for a reason. Okay? I'm going to go all the way like that. Let's come up in all the way up in here. Let's put us a nice tree. Be sure you work on these edges. Make that tree pop out. Now that tree is going to show up because we have fluorescent all behind it. So it's going to pop out already, but with our edges, it'll pop out that much better. So keep that in mind. Your picture will be so much better if you'll get these edges down. Here we go. We don't like a whole lot on this picture, except I haven't done any black light up there, and we're going to do one for you. Okay. Now, I'm going to put green on top of this. We're going to tone this down. Same green we used there. Not yellow green, just green. We're going to come in here and we're going to tone down all of this dark green. Barely putting it on. I am going to rub it in so that we can keep that fluorescent from shining through. Here's my hand. Just going to blend it in a little bit like this. Now then we're going to go to yellow-green. See, same yellow-green we used right there. I'm going to highlight this tree. Now, I'm going to start with this little one, and I'll show you why. Because I want to make it in front of that tree. I'm going to highlight it to the point that it will look like it's in front of that tree. See what we did? Now we're going to start on this one. I'm not putting it all over it, I'm just putting it where the sun might be glistening against those edge of that tree. Then we'll put a trunk in it and hopefully make it look like it's real, okay? We'll bring that down to there. Now I'm going to make this tree in front of the back tree. Now I'll start with the back one. I'm just highlighting part of it so that it looks like it's in the distance. Now we're going to take brown. I'm going to drop me a few trunks in here. back in here, I'm going to hit these little spots, like we have some rocks back in here. May want to put us a little area, maybe up like a little beach area there. Let's hit this in here like this. I'm going to run some tone of this back in there. Sharpen that up a little bit. I may want to kick me out a rock in here. I'm just putting on a tone onto these rocks that we can highlight. Now this area back in here, looks like we got kind of a little bank area. So let's just make it a bank area. Now this is light brown, and I'm going to highlight the outside of this trunk on all these trees, just light brown. Do them all at one time, and that way you can be through with them, okay? Now we're going to come back over and we're going to hit the highlight of these little rocks. I'm using edges on this because I want good, sharp, crisp edges on these rocks. Remember, this is that bank we talked about, so you'll need to make some of it a little lighter in those areas, okay? I'm going to put me a rock here. Now, I'm going to use which we call dull peach. It's a tan color. And I'm going to put a little area there like we have this beach right in that spot. And we're going to highlight the highlight. You notice there's not much on the highlight of the highlights, because it's just where the light might be the most on that particular spot. So don't do too much, yet we want it to show up good. Here I may put just a few marks in here, like there's some highlights back in here. Sometimes you can take yellow and you can lighten up some of this area like this. And when you lighten it up, you can then come back with black, and you can put another set of rocks where it looks like that is further away than this. So it just gives us an area here that we can work with and lighten up a little bit, and then we can come back and darken it and then put our rocks. And let me show you a trick or two with these rocks. This is brown, of course. We're going to put brown for this highlight on this rock. I'm going to bring it down like that. This one all the way down. This one I'm only going to put right here. And then I'm going to show you some backlight. I'm going to show you what we would call a backlight area. In other words, we could make this rock sticking out like this one, but that rock is behind this rock. So I'm going to put a highlight on there, but I'm going to put this rock in front of that one. And right in this area, I'm going to take some light blue. I'm going to put a backlight. We call this a backlight on this rock. And it just enhances this rock area here and brings it out. Now, I'm going to put just a tiny bit of black. Black goes a long, long ways, but in this area right in here, put a little bit of black.
And I'm going to blend it with my hand. Then I'm going to put just a tiny bit of yellow-green to break this up, just a little bit. Now it looks like we've got a little grassy area in between there, and it should kick out pretty good. Now I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to use, I showed you how to use pastels. I showed you how to use visible fluorescence. I haven't showed you what they look like under the black light. I'm now going to show you invisible fluorescence. We're going to be turning out all the lights, and I'm going to have to do that right quickly. So as we're turning out the lights, I'm going to be turning my black light on, and then I'm going to show you the invisible fluorescent chalk. This is what this would look like with just the visible fluorescent and the pastels. Now watch closely. I'm using a fluorescent black light, and you can plainly see how this is going to pick up. It's a nice scene right now. When I put lights on it, red lights and blue lights, this is blue lights, you see things begin to enhance. Now that's just lights covered with blue film. I have double blue lights. You can already see some of this light brown I put up in there is picking up. That's a spotlight. This is a red light I'm going to put on here. Now you watch things change with the red light. Watch how all these colors popped out. Just a red light covered with, a white light covered with red gel. But you can see what all you can do with this by using just color. Now we're going to go strictly to the black light. So watch closely. There are 17 colors in the invisible chalk. I'm going to be using some of this invisible chalk to finish out this picture. Now, I don't know if you'll use all these colors or not, but I'll tell you this. You'll be using some of these colors simply because it's so powerful. It's a way to get the message across, and you don't have to do an awful lot. Now, I'm going to be using, let's use brilliant yellow. This is invisible fluorescent. You got to wipe your hand off because when you touch that, it's going to come off on your hand. So you can't rub it with an eraser. You can't rub it with a rag. You're going to have to lay it on so light that you can barely rub it off with your finger if you make a mistake. Let's say we've got we'll do us a three-dimensional cross. Everybody can draw this picture. This is not hard at all. So I hope that you'll order some chalk and that you'll go through this class and that you'll get this down so that you can make this presentation. I'm barely putting that on the paper. You might want to blow off any little pieces that might be hanging there or something. Now I'm going to make it three-dimensional. I'm going to do it like that, 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 that. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this across. Bring this down. We'll bring it this way. Okay? Now, that shouldn't be too hard for you to do. I'm going to take my finger after wiping it off, and I'm lightly going to go up that, and on every piece of that, I'm going to just barely touch it with my finger and knock down any kind of excess chalk that might be there. Don't smear it bad, but just barely touch it and get off any excess. Be sure and wipe it on your rag, otherwise you'll smear it when you put your hand back on the paper. Okay? Now, we got that done. Let's take
invisible orange. And I'm going to put a little bit of invisible orange up in here. We're going to kind of float this around and make it tie into this visible fluorescent. I'm just going to kind of play with it. I'm lightly going to blend it in, just like that. Kind of make it like we've got some clouds back in here. Okay? We're just going to bring it in there like that. Lightly going to rub it. Now, I can use this same color, this brilliant yellow, and I can highlight these little clouds. I can do it like this. Barely touching it. I don't want to groove it into that white pastel we've got there, but I do want it to show up good. So I'm just barely touching it on that paper. Now I can take this, just like we have it, and I can lightly blend it in like that. Now it's sometimes nice to kind of do this. This is blue-white. Now I'm trying to stay where the white pastel's at so it won't show up. Sometimes you might get out, but you know, out of the white, and it might show up a little bit, but it's not going to show up much. I even like to put a little spot of yellow sometimes up here. And for some reason, it makes it look like it's kind of sparkly. Like maybe the lights are kind of twinkling. Now let me show you something. I assure you, when I have this light on, right here, which is a spotlight, you can't see that. We have totally hidden it from the normal eye. The only way you can see that is with a fluorescent black light. And that's why we can start this rotation of colors, and it is so neat. Now that's my regular white light. I'll take off the spot, and I'll start running some of these colors for you, and just let you see what it looks like with the red lights and the blue lights, and then we'll go to the black light. That's red, and we're talking about the red gel on the white light, the white spots. This is with blue showing on it. You can start seeing it starts changing immediately with that blue. This is with just straight blue. And you can see the fluorescent, the visible fluorescent we have there is showing up under these blue lights. Now when I put the spotlight on, we'll just about wipe out that blue. And then we'll go to the black light. When we go to the black light, here again, you won't be able to see that
invisible chalk until I take off the white line, and then there is the empty cross. I'm glad to say that the Lord Jesus is not on that cross anymore. He is risen and He is alive. And this is a great, powerful way to share the good news of Jesus. You have now seen a simple techniques class in doing chalk art. Now there's much more for you to learn, and I hope that you'll take time and come to our classes. You can see them on the website. You can see where we have these classes. I challenge you, come and learn more so that you can do more with this type of media in presenting the good news. I have enjoyed thoroughly teaching this class for you. This is our first techniques class to teach in this type of media. We'll be doing some advanced classes soon and doing a video on that. And I hope that you'll take part in those also. So let me hear from you. Check our email, check our website, and I really look forward to meeting you personally. I do want to hear from you. Send me a copy of the picture that you're drawing, and I'd like to share the excitement with you that we've enjoyed today. Thank you very much. This is Larry Sinclair saying thank you for being a part of this.